everybody, Peter here from the Esoteric Order of Gamers. Welcome! Today I'm going to have a little look at some stuff for Star Trek away missions. This is the core set. I've already done a review of it, pretty comprehensive review, so go and check it out. It was a long journey towards liking Star Trek away missions. I had some problems with it at first, but I'm actually starting to really enjoy it. And I just think that maybe it's because the factions in the core set weren't the perfect pick for a starter set. I could be wrong, however. And also, it's got one of these boxes with a clear thing on it. But anyway, I've already talked about that. Now, before I get started, I want to say, of course, that I got these two expansions for free. Gale, Force 9 send me stuff to review and show to you. I don't charge them for these videos, and my opinions are always my own. So we've got here the House of Duras Klingon expansion and the Captain Picard Federation expansion. And they don't come like this. No. I've painted them. So I'm going to show you fully painted miniatures for both of these sets. Of course, they come unpainted. They also come with a whole lot of cards each, and they come with the boards for each of the miniatures, and in the Klingon case, some extra counters as well. So let's get into this stuff and see what you get in these two expansions and how it shakes up the game of Star Trek away missions. So let's get started with Captain Picard. Now, of course, we've already seen Captain Picard in the core set, but unfortunately, it's not the Captain Picard we know and love. It is, in fact, Locutus of Borg, the Borg version of Captain Picard. This is the original version of him, before he got cybernetic implants. And in this little set, you get 5 miniatures, as you can see. We get 5 character cards, which are these. We've got 70 mission and support cards. Now, of course, this follows the same format as the core set, in that you get starter deck ready to go, made up, of course, of your support cards and your mission cards. So that's all ready to go. You can see I've sleeved those because I've already played with it. And you get some extra cards as well. There's a total of 70 cards, and you can mix up your deck with these cards. In fact, you can mix up your deck with Federation cards from the core set as well, of course. So there is an opportunity for a little bit of deck building there to fine-tune your deck. And you'll probably be doing that in response to which of these mission cards you choose. This is an extra core mission card. There's 2 on it. And they're very interesting because Captain Picard is all about diplomacy. He's very diplomatic. Very interesting stuff. So we'll just talk about what the core missions do. The first one is called Open Dialogue. You score 30 points if you have 5 or more negotiation mission cards in your scoring area at the end of the game. So they're the missions you want to get. So obviously not being too violent, doesn't want to run around killing things. That's the Klingon stuff. And then the other one is called Strong-Willed. There are 3 lights! Something like that. That's just from memory. It's been a long time since I saw that episode. Score 50 points if you and your opponent have no cards left in their support deck at the end of the game. So that's interesting. You're trying to get down not only your support deck, but the opponent's support deck. 2 interesting missions there. You also get 16 tokens. They are sort of extra ones for the ones that you have in the core set, so nothing new there. So that's what you get. Now, the first thing I must say is that the packaging for these, it's a nice, neat little set, and it shows off the miniatures, but it's not really good for long-term packaging or storage. And this is one problem I have with the whole thing. I think I'm going to have to really redo the original box. You saw in the original box that it had this big yellow thing to hold the miniatures in, which are then displayed in the clear front. I'm going to get rid of that and make an insert for the box so I can fit all the miniatures and cards in the box, because they don't really fit in these. Miniatures fit fine, and there is a space, just open it up, for the cards. But of course, as soon as you sleeve the cards, you can't fit all of the cards into that space. And other things like these go in just tucked underneath the tray. It's really hard to get back in the box. Just all around, it seems to be a packaging solution made for display and not for actual use, which is a little bit frustrating. So I've somehow got to squeeze all this into the core box. But of course, if I start getting more expansions, where are they going to go? I don't think we're going to get anything apart from this format in the expansions now. So I just feel like they haven't quite thought that through. Where we're going to store all this stuff, I don't know. It might be that I'll store the miniatures in these boxes and then just make the original box a big repository of all the cards. That might be the way to go, because these look quite nice sitting in the little box with the screen showing you the miniatures. Talking about the miniatures, let's have a look at them. Who have we got here? Well, we've got Captain Picard himself, looking very dapper and going like this. Make it so. We've got Beverly Crusher. I don't even have to look at them because I know Next Generation so well. I watched it right from the start. When the first episode of Next Generation came out, I was living in a share house, and our next door neighbours were really into Star Trek as well. So we all gathered together in one house. And I remember us all getting together around the TV to watch the first episode of Next Generation. How's that? That was a long time ago, back in the 80s. Anyway, Beverly there, she's looking at a tricorder. Very nice. And I've got to say, these are growing on me, these miniatures. I wasn't crazy about them in the core set, but when you paint them up, they look pretty good. It's because they've got sort of bold colours and they're kind of simplified. Easy to paint, very, very easy to paint. There's not too much extraneous detail in them. And yeah, they have a certain charm of their own after a while. This one we've got, of course, Geordie LaForge. Here he is. He's got a phaser. He's taken a shot. We've got Deanna Troi here, looking very glam. There she is. Nice figure, that one. And then Wesley Crusher, which is a pleasant surprise. And Wesley is kneeling down and he's got that strange little device that he built. I think it was in the episode The Naked Now. That's just off the top of my head again, in the first season. And while everybody else was running around, they were all infected by some virus that made them basically act drunk. So all the adults were running around wanting to have sex with each other, and Wesley was making toys, which is kind of weird because I think he was supposed to be about 15. So if he was infected by a virus, he'd be thinking about sex more than anybody on the Enterprise. Let's face it. I guess that would have been an uncomfortable place for them to go in an early episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation. But there you go. So we've got Wesley. It's great. And I'll tell you more about Wesley and his cards and this little thing that he's carrying later, because it's pretty funny. So let's have a quick go through their special abilities, shall we? So we've got Jean-Luc Picard. Here he is. He's just got a Type 2 phaser. When he activates, you search for a negotiation event card. So you just go through the deck and you get a negotiation event straight away, which is great. And he's also got the ability, Make It So. He can take an action to move up to 2 friendly characters up to 2 spaces each. So he makes the Federation team even more mobile. We've got Beverly Crusher here. She has Doctor, of course. So she can take an action and discard 2 cards to remove a stun token or 2 damage tokens from an adjacent character. So it's very handy if you're fighting against the Klingons or someone who's more violent. Geordie LaForge, he has his visor. Whenever LaForge passes an engineering skill test with at least 2 successes, choose to either draw a support card or search the mission deck's discard pile for a repair ship mission card. Pretty handy indeed. We've got Deanna Troi. She is a mind reader. When Troi activates, you may look at 2 random mission cards from your opponent's hand. Very handy indeed. So you can get the drop on your opponent and find out what their missions are and what they're going for, and then try and stop them. And finally, we've got Wesley Crusher. He's a student. So he can take an action to search the support deck's discard pile for an experiment card. Now, this is quite funny because as far as I could tell, there's only 1 experiment card. And I've just got to confirm that because maybe there's some in the extra pile here. But let me just find it. Okay, I've had a look through. There are only 2 experiment cards as far as I can tell. One of them is the actual device, the portable tractor beam that he was fiddling around with and he's got in that miniature. And that allows him to look at the top 2 support cards, place one in hand and the other on the bottom of the support deck. Okay, it doesn't seem incredibly useful, does it? But remember, we've got that mission where we're trying to get through all the support cards. However, this goes on the bottom. I don't see how handy that is at all, really. But this one is hilarious. It's the static warp bubble. Now, this can only be played during Wesley Crusher's activation. So remember, he can take an action to search for this card. If it's in the discard pile, he can grab it. And it means play this card on the table. At the start of each character's activation, their player must place a card from their hand on the bottom of its deck. If a player is unable to do this, shuffle this card into your support deck. So this really, for yourself and the other player, you churn through your cards with this one. Again, you're putting them on the bottom of its deck, so it doesn't mean that it's helping with this ability, or this mission, which allows you to have no cards and left in the support deck. So it's not that. However, it can really shake things up. First game we played, this came up, and it was just hilarious how at the start of each player's turn, every time they activated a character, they had to basically discard a card from their hand. So it was it was so funny because every time it happened, we'd go, Wesley! And it absolutely captured the feel of Wesley as sort of kind of being an annoying character. It was really funny. So it can be useful and strategic in the right circumstances, but he's kind of a one-trick pony, Wesley, and he's just kind of annoying because he forces you to discard a card. So pretty funny guy. Really nice bloke, the actor in this guy, what's his name? I've forgotten his name now. That's terrible. But poor old Wesley, bad reputation and gets the rough end of the stick a lot of the time. So there's the Federation team. Now, when you look through the cards, there's some interesting cards. I'm not going to go through them all because we'll be here forever. But basically, there's a lot of diplomatic cards. And the diplomatic cards tend to be things where you allow the other player to get something and you get something as well. So it's not sort of all about me. It's about giving it to the other player as well. But hopefully you can sort of use this to your advantage when you're trying to get your stuff. There's also a lot of Deanna Troi type cards, which are quite handy. They allow you to do things like draw a mission card and draw a second one if this character is an empath. So, of course, Deanna is an empath, so she gets that special ability. But here's an example. Here's an event called Mediation. Discard a card from your hand, and then each opponent must discard 2 cards from their hand. So you're giving something and hopefully getting something out of it as well. Here's another example, an event, Picard's Compromise. Take an opposed diplomacy skill test. Pick a hostile character in line of sight to challenge it. If you pass it, you move that character up to 2 spaces, and then the opponent may then discard a card to move one of your characters up to 2 spaces. So they don't tend to be, when you're playing this, I find they're a little bit frustrating because you're just thinking, I want to play a card and do something and get there. But it's a bit more subtle than that because you have to give something to your opponent as well. It is quite subtle, and I found it really got the feel of Picard being a sort of elder statesman across quite nicely. And I've got to say, it's really nice to play with these absolutely classic characters as well. Now, of course, we've got a lot of negotiation missions in here because if Picard gets 5 or more of those, he gets an extra 30 points, which is really handy. And also, like the other Federation cards from the core set, there's a lot of opportunity for scoring bonus points as well. So in general, very general, because I haven't gotten deeply into the cards, there's very much of this diplomacy feel, and it's all about sort of giving something to your opponent and taking something yourself. Very nice little team. Let's have a look at the Klingons. So here we have the 5 Klingon members of the House of Duras. Now, I don't remember the original episodes with the House of Duras too well, but I've got a vague feeling they were sort of a bit sneaky and treacherous. Correct me if I'm wrong. So there is a bit of a sneaky feeling here, a bit less straight-on violent than the Klingons were in the core set. It's more sneakiness going on. So who do we have here? Well, we've got the Duras sisters, of course. So we've got 2 commanders. We've got B'Etor, who is, where is she? There she is, looking very regal. She's got the ability Underhanded, unless Lursa is neutralised, who is the other sister. B'Etor rolls an additional die when making opposed skill tests against characters with your compromised traits. Compromised traits, that's interesting. What's that about? I don't remember doing that. See, I didn't play the Klingons when we played this, so I'm not 100% sure what that is, but anyway, we'll get onto that later. Lursa is the other sister. She's also a commander. Unless B'Etor is neutralised, whenever Lursa completes a conspiracy mission, you can discard a card to search your support deck discard pile for a treachery card. So big into the treachery. Then we've got we've got 3 other Klingons here. We've got Telok, who's a specialist, Klingon specialist. He's got Bodyguard. When Telok gives another character backup for defense, roll 2 additional dice instead of 1. So very good on the defense. Doesn't sound very Klingon-y, does it? Really? But anyway, he's a bodyguard. Then we've got Taral, who has his ability is treachery. One of his specializations is treachery. And he's got Stolen Valor. Discard a card to give the command specialization to Toral until the end of the round. So he could be a temporary command ability. Then we've got Kavit, the strangely named Kavit. And he is medical. He's also got treachery as well. They all got treachery? They've all got treachery except for Telok. So there you go. Big on treachery. He's got honorless. So Kavit cannot gain honor. Now you know that the Klingons are very big into getting honor tokens. So he can't do that. Sorry about that, Kavit. However, he does have the medical specialization. So let's have a look at their 2 core missions, shall we? Arms supply deal. This is the one we've played with so far. Place any weapon cards discarded from arms deal missions on this card. So arms deal missions, you're basically finding weapons, getting weapons, and putting them on the arms deal card mission to score the mission. So if you have this, any cards discarded from that go onto this card instead, and you score 10 points for each non-melee weapon equipment card on this card at the end of the game. So you're basically running around trying to do an arms supply deal, getting as many arms as you want, as you can, and putting them on this card and scoring them. Also, you get the action, take a treachery skill test in an operations terminal. If passed, place a weapon card from your hand on this card. If this character is in the transporter room, place up to 4 weapon cards as well. Instead. So, yeah, pretty clever. So instead of running around trying to kill people and be very Klingon-like and aggressive, this is very much about, trying to get the weapon cards and put them on here and scoring them. The other mission is called Restore Honor. You score 30 points if none of your commander characters with treachery are neutralized and all of them have honor at the end of the game. It's a bit more classic Klingon there. And you score 5 points for each of your other characters, whether in the mission area or neutralized, that have honor at the end of the game. So much more about getting honor that side of the deck. So here are all our cards. And what have we got here? Well, there's some weapons and things. We've got poison blades and disruptor rifles and sniper rifles. So lots of weapons to use in that arms deal mission, which is pretty handy. There is, of course, the emphasis on gaining honor and using it. For example, this one, Mistaken Honor. You can interrupt, play with a hostile character with honor, takes an attack action against a friendly Klingon character with treachery. The friendly character gains honor. Or you can interrupt. There's quite a lot of text on some of these. Select a friendly character with treachery. They roll an additional die for all medical and diplomacy skill tests until the end of this activation. Well, we know all of our characters except one have treachery. This one is the power of Durus, and it can only be played for the sisters. You can place this character in any empty space not in line of sight of a hostile character, so that's pretty handy. They can get around the board pretty quickly. You can also put the sisters together in the same place if they're not neutralized. So they're sneaky, they get around the board, they get the weapons, they're getting honor, all that kind of stuff. They're really just, I think the impression I got was kind of a more well-rounded Klingon team than the original Klingon team. So I think this is a really good team. And we played these two together and it was a very close game. Came down to the wire. It was really good. My opponent was playing the Klingons and doing the arms supply deal. I was playing the Federation and I was doing open dialogue. So I was trying to get more negotiation missions. And it went really well. And despite the fact there was very little conflict in the game, which is a problem I've had with the game in the past, I realised in this game the potential that it actually has for doing your own thing and not necessarily having conflict. It was only at the end of the game where I realised we'd actually just taken one shot at each other or something, and there actually wasn't a whole lot of, player versus player stuff happening, but it was still really compelling and interesting trying to achieve your missions. So much more so than in the core set. I don't know why. There was something about the Federation in the core set which just felt like, oh, I've got to do a combination of characters in different places and I've got to score a mission and that's it. There was something a bit more interesting in this. I was going for particular missions so I could get enough in the scoring area. And also that was mixed with the fact that I was playing these diplomacy cards that were giving something to the other player as well as I was getting something. So it was much more interactive. So my end result, I know I haven't gone deeply into the cards, but that would be for someone who was really, really into the deck building and stuff, which I'm not so much. I'm more a casual player. But my definite impression from these two expansions is that they improve the game immeasurably. I think when we play again, we're going to play with these two teams again. I really enjoyed them. And of course, I still haven't had a chance to play with the Romulans and the Klingons expansions from the original set, the first wave of 2 expansions. I've got to play with those. Suddenly I'm excited about Star Trek Away Missions more than I was with just the core set. With just the core set, I had the problem with the Borg. They were very difficult to score with and fight with and everything like that. With these two coming in, I really want to mix them up with the other 2 expansions, and I'm suddenly saying, oh, there's a whole lot of possibility here. There's different ways of playing with all these characters. And, you know, don't they look good when they're painted up? So there you have it, folks, the House of Duras and the Picard expansion. If you enjoyed Star Trek Away Missions at all, I would very much recommend getting these 2 sets. I think they shake things up quite nicely, and I'm really pleased with the way the 2 teams play. They feel quite distinctive and interesting. You've got the sneaky Klingons and you've got the very diplomatic Federation, and I'm quite excited to see what's in the future for Star Trek Away Missions now. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this little video. I will see you next time. Please go to the website orderofgamers.com. You will find a rules and reference for Star Trek Away Missions, as well as hundreds of other rules and references for popular games, and heaps of videos and stuff as well. So check it out, orderofgamers.com. I will see you next time. Good gaming, everyone. Bye for now.